The year is 1888. A chill grips London, not from the weather but from fear. The heart of London, once vibrant and alive, now pulses with dread. The fog, thick and heavy, seems to hold its breath, waiting, watching, just like Jack. Whitechapel, a district of London shrouded in poverty and despair. A labyrinth of narrow, winding alleys and dimly lit streets where life was cheap and death came easy. But even in the depths of Whitechapel, a new level of fear has taken root. A terror that seeps into the very marrow, chilling the soul. Because here in the shadows a predator stalks, his prey vulnerable women forgotten by society. Their deaths, violent and gruesome, sent shockwaves through the city. Fear, like a contagion, spread through the streets. Whispers of Jack spread like a virus through the fog-choked streets. Jack the Ripper. A name whispered in fear, a spectre haunting the darkness. His calling card brutality unlike anything the police had ever seen. Bodies mutilated, lives extinguished with chilling efficiency. The police, frustrated and overwhelmed, seemed always a step behind. The fog, Jack's accomplice, swallowed everything in its path, including hope. London was caught in the grip of a nightmare, and there seemed to be no escape. August 31st, 1888. The night was like any other in Whitechapel. Fog, thick as gravy, clung to the cobblestones. It was on this night that Polly Nichols, a woman trapped in the cruel cycle of poverty and despair, crossed paths with fate, or rather with Jack. Her body, discovered in the early hours, bore wounds that made even the most hardened police officers wince. Her throat slashed with surgical precision. Her abdomen mutilated in a way that spoke of a chilling depravity. The city was a tinderbox, and Polly Nichols's murder was the spark. Just 1 week later, the city braced itself for another blow. Annie Chapman, another woman living on the fringes of society, became the Ripper's second victim. Discovered in the backyard of a tenement building, her body bore the same chilling hallmarks. The precision of the cuts, the almost surgical removal of organs, pointed to a level of knowledge that sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned investigators. The murders of Nichols and Chapman sent a clear message. No one was safe. Fear, raw and primal, gripped the city. Women, especially those forced into prostitution, lived in the shadow of death. Every shadow held the potential for danger, every stranger a possible killer. September ended with a bloodbath. 2 more victims, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes, were added to the Ripper's gruesome tally. Their murders, occurring within hours of each other, sent the city into a frenzy. The newspapers, fueled by the public's insatiable appetite for news of the killer, published every gruesome detail. London, once a beacon of civilization, now found itself held hostage by fear. The fog, once a mere meteorological phenomenon, now seemed to carry the stench of death. Every gust of wind whispered Jack's name. Every shadow held the potential for terror. The pressure to catch the Ripper mounted with each passing day. Scotland Yard, faced with unprecedented brutality and public pressure, threw everything they had at the case. Detectives, working tirelessly, interviewed hundreds of potential witnesses, scoured the streets for clues and chased down every lead, no matter how tenuous. The investigation was a race against time, a desperate attempt to stay one step ahead of a killer who seemed to vanish into thin air. The Whitechapel murders, unlike any crimes London had ever seen, pushed the boundaries of forensic science. With limited technology at their disposal, investigators relied on eyewitness accounts, rudimentary fingerprinting methods, and the hope that the killer would make a mistake. But Jack, a master of stealth and cunning, seemed to be always one step ahead. The fog, his loyal accomplice, swallowed up evidence and concealed his movements. The city held its breath, waiting for the next move in this deadly game of cat and mouse. The fog, a constant presence in the labyrinthine streets of Whitechapel, became both a blessing and a curse for the investigators. It obscured the killer's movements, swallowing him into its depths as quickly as he appeared. Inspector Frederick Aberline, a seasoned detective known for his sharp mind and unwavering determination, found himself leading the most challenging investigation of his career. The pressure was immense, the weight of the city's fear a tangible burden on his shoulders. He knew that each passing day brought the possibility of another victim, another life brutally extinguished. Door-to-door inquiries, witness statements, and the painstaking process of piecing together fragmented clues became the order of the day. Yet despite their tireless efforts, the police seemed to be always a step behind. Jack, like a phantom, moved through the fog, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror, but frustratingly little in the way of tangible evidence. Whitechapel, a melting pot of poverty, desperation and secrets, proved to be a challenging environment for the investigators. The residents, many living on the fringes of society, were often reluctant to talk to the police, their distrust rooted in years of hardship and neglect. Witnesses, when they could be found, often provided conflicting or unreliable accounts. The darkness and fog played tricks on the eyes, distorting memories and blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Whispers and rumors fueled by fear and speculation spread through the community like wildfire, further complicating the investigation. The murders occurring in the dead of night robbed the police of their most valuable asset: time. The killer, operating under the cloak of darkness, could choose his victims, select his locations, and vanish into the labyrinthine streets before anyone realized what had happened. The police, faced with a wall of silence and a killer who seemed to vanish into thin air, found themselves locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The Whitechapel murders had occurred at a time when forensic science was in its infancy. Fingerprinting, DNA analysis, and other modern investigative tools were still decades away. The police, lacking the technology to analyze evidence effectively, were forced to rely on more traditional methods, often with limited success. Bloodstains, a grim reminder of the killer's handiwork, were carefully collected and analyzed, but their value as evidence was limited. Without sophisticated techniques to determine blood type or match it to a suspect, the police could only speculate about the killer's identity. Footprints, often found near the crime scenes, offered tantalizing clues but rarely led to a suspect. The cobblestone streets of Whitechapel were a thoroughfare for hundreds of residents, making it nearly impossible to isolate a single set of prints. The lack of sophisticated forensic tools meant that the police were often left with more questions than answers. The fog that clung to Whitechapel concealed more than just cobblestones and gaslight. It shrouded the identity of Jack the Ripper. Over a century later, the question of who terrorized London in the autumn of 1888 remains unanswered. Dozens of names have been put forth, scrutinized and debated, but the killer's true face, if it was ever known at all, remains lost to time. Some suspects were quickly dismissed, their alibis holding firm against scrutiny. Others, their lives a tangled web of secrets and half-truths, lingered longer in the imaginations of investigators and armchair detectives alike. But Jack the Ripper, whoever he was, guarded his secrets well. He moved through the fog like a phantom, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror but precious little in the way of tangible evidence. The search for his true identity, though seemingly impossible after all these years, goes on, fueled by a desire to bring closure to a dark chapter in history. Among the many names whispered in connection with the Whitechapel murders, few are as intriguing or as tragic as that of Montague John Druitt. A barrister from a respectable family, Druitt seemingly had everything to live for. Yet beneath the veneer of success, darkness festered. Druitt's name first surfaced as a suspect after his untimely death by suicide in December 1888, just weeks after the final canonical murder. His body, pulled from the murky depths of the River Thames, held secrets as deep and impenetrable as the waters that claimed him. Adding to the air of suspicion, Druitt had been dismissed from his teaching position just weeks before his death. While no direct evidence links Druitt to the Whitechapel murders, the timing of his death, coupled with his mental state and the cloud of suspicion that hung over him, made him a person of interest to Inspector McNaughton. Druitt's name, forever linked to the case, would become a source of endless speculation for those seeking answers in the labyrinthine mystery of Jack the Ripper. The fog of madness, much like the literal fog that shrouded Whitechapel, obscures the line between reality and delusion. It is into this hazy realm that we venture when we examine the case of Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant whose life, plagued by mental illness, became tragically intertwined with the legend of Jack the Ripper. Kosminski, a resident of Whitechapel at the time of the murders, displayed erratic behavior and harbored a deep-seated hatred of women, according to witness accounts. His mental deterioration, evident in his increasingly bizarre actions, led to his confinement in a series of asylums. While some evidence, including eyewitness accounts and police reports, pointed to Kosminski as a potential suspect, nothing concrete ever emerged to definitively link him to the crimes. His mental state, deteriorating rapidly, made it impossible to obtain a reliable confession or to determine with certainty whether his delusions held any grains of truth. The case of Aaron Kosminski, like so many aspects of the Jack the Ripper mystery, remains frustratingly incomplete. Lost in the fog of his own madness, he took his secrets, if he held any, to the grave, leaving behind a legacy of speculation and unanswered questions. The fog of prejudice, as thick and suffocating as any London fog, can cloud judgment and distort the truth. John Pizer, a Jewish bootmaker known as Leather Apron, faced unfounded suspicion fueled by prejudice. Despite no evidence, he was arrested and interrogated. Though released, his reputation never recovered, a victim of prejudice. In the annals of unsolved mysteries, few capture the imagination like royal involvement. The Jack the Ripper case is no exception. Enter Prince Albert Victor, grandson of Queen Victoria, whose alleged connection to the Whitechapel murders has been debated for over a century. Rumours of the prince's involvement swirled, fueled by whispers of secret liaisons and a desperate attempt by the royal family to cover up a scandal. No concrete evidence has ever been found to substantiate these claims. The theory of Prince Albert Victor as Jack the Ripper continues to fascinate and divide. It stands as a testament to the enduring power of conspiracy theories and the allure of the forbidden. The autumn of 1888 cast a long, dark shadow over London. The fog became synonymous with dread, a tangible manifestation of the fear that had seeped into the very soul of the city. The Jack the Ripper murders shattered London's illusion of safety, leaving its citizens to grapple with the terrifying reality. Neighbours viewed each other with suspicion, and the coming of night brought with it a palpable sense of dread. The most vulnerable, particularly women, lived in a state of perpetual fear. The fear, pervasive and relentless, seeped into everyday life. The city, normally a hive of activity, seemed to hold its breath, its vibrant energy stifled by fear. The Ripper, though physically absent, cast a long shadow over London, leaving an enduring mark on the city's psyche. The Jack the Ripper murders became a media sensation, captivating and horrifying the public in equal measure. Newspapers published lurid accounts of the crimes, often embellishing details to satisfy the public's insatiable appetite for the gruesome and the macabre. The murders became a morbid spectacle, dissected and debated in drawing rooms and pubs across the city. The lack of a suspect fueled endless speculation and conjecture. Theories abounded, each one adding to the growing mythology surrounding the Ripper. The media played a crucial role in shaping the narrative, transforming a real-life horror story into a macabre form of entertainment. The shadow of Jack the Ripper extended far beyond the cobblestone streets of Whitechapel, leaving an indelible mark on London's social and political landscape. The murders ignited public outrage and demands for change. The plight of the poor and the vulnerability of women were thrust into the spotlight, forcing society to confront its failings. The public outcry put immense pressure on the government and law enforcement. Social reformers found a receptive audience for their calls for improved housing, sanitation, and social services. The Whitechapel murders, though a tragedy, acted as a catalyst for change, sparking a movement for social justice that would continue well into the 20th century. The gaslights have long since faded, replaced by the electric hum of modernity. The cobblestone streets of Whitechapel, once slick with the blood of Jack's victims, are now paved anew. But the questions linger, echoing through the corridors of time. Who was Jack the Ripper? Why did he kill? And why, after all this time, does his shadow still loom so large? The lack of a definitive answer is perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of the entire case. It is a puzzle box with a missing key, a story with the final chapter ripped out. We are left to sift through the fragments, the clues scattered like ash on the wind. Each piece of evidence, each witness statement, each theory proposed only seems to deepen the enigma. Was Jack a doctor, as some believe, his knowledge of anatomy reflected in the precise mutilations of his victims? Or was he a butcher, a leather worker, someone accustomed to the sight and smell of blood? The possibilities, like the twisting alleys of Whitechapel itself, seem endless and yet lead to dead ends. The mystery of Jack the Ripper is not just about who he was, but about what he represents. He is a symbol of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of civilization, the primal fear that whispers to us in the shadows. He reminds us that even in the heart of a great city, no one is truly safe. Section 2. The Fog of Time. Over a century has passed since Jack's reign of terror, but the fog of time has only served to thicken the mystery surrounding him. Evidence has been lost, destroyed, or simply crumbled away with age. Witnesses have taken their stories to the grave, leaving behind only whispers and shadows of what they might have known. Even with the advancements in forensic science, the passage of time has made it nearly impossible to apply modern techniques to the case with any certainty. DNA evidence, if it ever existed, is long gone. Fingerprints, if they were even collected and preserved properly, are likely degraded beyond recognition. The fog of time has also distorted our perception of the case. Fact and fiction have become intertwined, fueled by countless books, movies, and television shows that have offered their own interpretations of the Ripper's identity and motives. Separating truth from speculation has become an almost impossible task, and yet the very elusiveness of the truth is part of what keeps the case alive. It is a blank canvas onto which we can project our own fears, fascinations, and theories. It is a historical puzzle that we can't help but try to solve, even though we know the pieces may never fully fit. Section 3. A macabre fascination. Why are we in the 21st century still so drawn to the darkness of 1888? Why does the name Jack the Ripper continue to send chills down our spines long after the fog has cleared and the gaslights have been extinguished? Perhaps it is the sheer brutality of the crimes. The murders, even by today's standards, are shocking in their violence and depravity. They offer a glimpse into the darkest recesses of the human psyche, a reminder that monsters do not always lurk in the shadows but can walk among us, hidden in plain sight. Or perhaps it is the mystery itself that captivates us. The lack of a definitive answer, the endless possibilities, the tantalizing clues that never quite add up. These are the elements that fuel our imaginations and keep us coming back to the case again and again. Whatever the reason, the fascination with Jack the Ripper endures. He is a spectre that continues to haunt our collective consciousness, a reminder of the fragility of life, the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of society, and the enduring power of a mystery unsolved. Section 1. The legend endures. The fog may have lifted from Whitechapel, but the shadow of Jack the Ripper remains. He is a scar on the fabric of history, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the most civilized of societies. The cobblestone streets he stalked have long since been paved over, but the echoes of his crimes still resonate, whispered on the wind that whips through the East End. He is a ghost story whispered around campfires, a name uttered with a mix of morbid curiosity and genuine fear. He is a puzzle that refuses to be solved, a mystery that continues to fascinate and frustrate in equal measure. We are drawn to him, again and again, seeking answers that may never be found. Perhaps that is the true legacy of Jack the Ripper, not the brutality of his crimes, but the enduring power of the unknown. He is a blank slate onto which we project our own fears, our own interpretations of good and evil, our own fascination with the darkness that lies at the heart of humanity. Until the end of time, people will speculate, theorize, and search for answers. But the true identity of Jack the Ripper, like the fog that shrouded his crimes, may forever remain elusive. Section 2. Join the expedition. The search for truth never ends. Every corner of the globe holds its own mysteries, its own tales of the unexplained. From the fog-choked streets of Victorian London to the most remote corners of the world, the thirst for knowledge, for answers, is a journey without end. Here, on this channel, we embrace the unknown. We shine a light on the shadows, seeking to understand the world around us one story at a time. If you, like us, are drawn to the allure of the unexplained, if you believe that the search for answers is just as important as the answers themselves, then join us on this expedition. Subscribe to our channel, and together we'll explore the mysteries of history, the enigmas of science, and the wonders of the world around us. The truth is out there, waiting to be discovered. Are you brave enough to join the search?